Hey everyone, my name is Zian and this is the third episode of our text-based adventure game tutorial. So today we'll be continuing on with the previous video on developing the program and making the systems work with our database. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. And that is exactly what we want. All right, next step. So now that we've got our outcome text, or our text, I should say, we need to know whether this text has a choice, or is it going to continue to the next outcome or not. So let's go ahead and do a if. So if our choices required is equal to 1, so if it equals to true, then we need to do a few things. Well, what we got to do is we got to repeat all the choices that we have on our choices 1, 2, and 3, and we got to list them out. We got to put them into a text to show the player. So I'm going to do 4 items in choices. Remember how we've created this list, choices? So for every item in our choices, well, what we're going to do is if that item does not equal to 0. So if there is a choice, and if you look at our database here, some of them only have 2 choices, and some have 3. So if this is 0, that means we don't need to print that because there's no third choice at all. But if it isn't 0, we got to print it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to print our choice from our choices table. So choices, or choices table, I should say. And then we got to get the item that we have. So the item -1, remember, because of the index, array index. And we want to grab the flavor text from our choices table. So if we go to our choice table, we want to grab the text of it. So again, what this does is it prints the item that we have. So for example, if our item is 11, so it prints that, the 11th ID -1, sorry, it will be 12 because remember it starts at 0, -1, and it's going to grab the text, so 1. Right, perfect. So now it's saying, hey, if we have a choice and it's required, for every item in our choices table, if it doesn't equal 0, so if there is a choice, then we just got to print that choice, the flavor text of that choice. So now if we start this again, what it's going to do is it's going to print the outcome text, and then it's going to print all the choices within that text. And from what I believe in our outcomes table, number 3 has 2. So it's going to start printing choice 1 and choice 2. So it's going to say continue straight ahead and head right into the stairs. So let's go ahead and start that and see. Okay, so I'm going to pause that and I'm going to show you here. I'm going to zoom out and show you here. And as you can see here, it gives us that choice, those 2 choices. All right. Now we do want to do a few things. We want to know, well, what choice they're going to choose. Is it choice 1 or is it choice 2? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just number it. And to do that, I'm going to create another variable within this if statement. And I'm just going to call that num. So it's like the number of the choice that they're making. And I'll start that at 0. And for every item in the choice, if their item does not equal to 0, we want to go num plus equals 1. All right, so it adds 1 to our number. Because it's saying, okay, there's a choice, we'll add 1. And in here, what we'll do is we'll make that into a string. So right now our number is actually an integer, so we'll turn it into a string. And then we'll just add quotation marks, or not quotation marks, a hyphen, I should say. All right, so now if we actually start this, I'm going to close it again because it's going to keep looping. As you can see there, our first choice is either to continue straight ahead, and our second choice is either to head right. So now our players know, okay, it's either choice 1 or choice 2. Perfect. All right, so now the next steps that we have to do is, well, we got to grab our player choices, or what our player chose. So I'm actually going to go ahead here, and just to make it clear, we want to display the list of choices. And then here we actually want ask player what choice he liked, what choice to choose. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do something called exception handling. And what that pretty much does is that it allows us to try something, and if the player does something or writes something that it's not what we expect or not what we want, well, we're going to give them an error code and we're going to let them do it again, or try again until they get the right input, I should say. All right, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to make this a while loop as well. So while true. Now the reason being is because this is I guess where the exception goes. If the player continuously creates or types in incorrect values, then we're gonna keep asking him, really choose a number or choose a choice, like a legitimate answer, not just random words. Okay, so that's why it's while true. And we're gonna do a try. So while true, try this. And what we're gonna try is, well, we're gonna create a choice. And I'm gonna put that into option, I should say, or choice. The only reason why I'm not saying choice is because we've already used all the choice here, so it's gonna confuse us a little bit more. I'm just saying option instead. And we're gonna make it into, or well, we're gonna get the input of a player, I should say. So input, make your choice. All right, perfect. Now, what we actually want to do is we want to turn this into an integer, because remember, the choice is either 1 or 2. And if they did A, B, C, D, then it's not going to work. So first, make your choice. We'll get an input. Now, if this doesn't work, so accept value error. So if there's a value error, so if it's not what we're looking for, which is an integer, then we're going to print, please enter a number between 1 and, remember how we made this num equals 0? So we want them to enter a number between num and the string number. So if that has 2 choices, that means that number is going to be 2. So we want them to print a number between 1 and 2. If that's 3, then it's 1 and 3. So they either do 1, 2, or 3. Perfect. All right, and if they, if they do an error, what we want to do is we want to continue the loop. So pretty much go again. Go again to try again, ask them to make your choice again. All right, so let's go ahead and try this. I'll press start. And as you can see there, we've got the text that we've added onto our intro, and then the outcome and the list of choices that we have. Now, here's the thing, is what's good about this try and accept is that if it's any value that's not an integer, then it will ask us to say, well, please enter a number between 1 and 2. And if it is an integer, it's going to keep asking us to make our choice because we haven't added a breakpoint yet. But as you can see there, it didn't say any error, such as please enter a number between 1 and 2, because it recognizes as an integer. Now, what we need to actually do next is we need to create constraints because, well, technically someone can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that will be a number that's larger than 1 and 2. And I can also say negative 4,000, whatever, and that will still be a number smaller than 1 and 2. So not what we want. We want either 1 and 2. So we got to create a constraint for that. The other thing as well that we need to change is, well, even if we type 1 and 2, it's actually going to continuously ask still. And that's because, like I said, we haven't created a breakpoint. We haven't said, okay, if it is 1 or if it's 2 or if it's any of the choices they make, then, say this and break the loop. So right now it's just continuously looping. All right, so let's go ahead and do those constraints. Here, what we're going to do is we want an else statement. So else, if our option is greater than 1, less than 1, I should say, or our option is greater than our number, then what we want to do is pretty much the exact same thing. You can only enter a number between 1 and our number. Right. Now else, if it is within our constraints, if it is 1 or if it's 2 or if it's 3, based on the number that we have, well, what we want to say is we want to continue with the next question. So we actually want to break the statement. But just to confirm, we'll just say, yay, you chose right. Or you chose a number that we want. Okay. And it breaks the loop. So this makes the while loop a false, meaning that it moves on again to the next loop, which gets the outcome text again, all the choices, and if it's required, whatnot, and goes through the entire process again. So let's press start again on here. And let's do this test. So let's do a string. Again, saying, okay, please enter a number between 1 and 2. All right, I'm going to enter a number smaller. Please enter a number. I'm going to enter a number bigger. Okay, now I'm going to press 1. And it goes, yeah, you chose the right number, and it loops again. You choose whether to go straight or right, continue straight ahead or head right. Now, what the issue here is that it's just going to continuously loop no matter what choice you do to the exact same choice that you've made earlier. So what that means is that we need to change our outcome ID. And that is actually super simple. All we have to do is say outcome ID equals our choices table. And we got to grab from our choices list that we've, chosen. And we got to get the option that we've chosen, -1 index. And we're going to do the second array, so the second text. Now, I believe this choices option -1 is actually referring to this list. So it's referring which option that we chose. So if we said 1 here on our input, then it's going to put it to the choice 2, which isn't really 1. It's actually choice 1 that we want. So that's actually choices option -1. Now, to confuse you a lot more, remember how our choices table also has that sort of array indexing. So what we actually want to do is do another -1 for the choices table. Because if we say we want the first one, so it grabs the first one, and then that index is 13, for example, it's actually going to be 14. So we want to do a -1 to get the 13. Super confusing, but just trust me on this. We want the outcome ID to, well, grab the choice of the element that we're choosing, -1. And again, get the flavor text for that, or not the flavor text, the ID, I should say. So yeah, now let's go ahead and start that. And let's see what we do here. So if we continue straight ahead, deeper into the water, and I press 1, well, it's saying as you go along. So you continue to follow the water, and as you go along, and it's going to give me now the next options. So yeah, it's now, I'm pretty much, well, that's pretty much the game, if anything. You go through and all of that, and you pretty much continue with the game. Now, here's the thing, is that I'm not sure if you guys kind of noticed here. It didn't give me any choice, but then it asked me for a choice. So that's not really what we want, because this is supposed to be the end of the game, or I'm supposed to win the game already, as you can tell. The game should have ended. Now, what do we do there? Well, simple. If you remember earlier, if our choice is equal to 0, or choice required is equal to 0, that means it needs to move to the next outcome. It doesn't have any other choices to make. And that is done here. So very easy. If we do another else statement here, so else if our choices required is actually equal to 0, then we're going to continue to the next outcome. It's not going to give us any choice. And if this next outcome, so if our outcome ID is equal to 1, or our outcome ID is equal to 2, so remember, if it's either 1 or 2, then game over or you win. So we're actually going to break this loop, this entire loop itself. So it's not going to continue anymore, and it's not going to ask us anymore. All right. Now, what's going to happen is that if it is, we're going to break it. Otherwise, if it's not, well, our outcome ID becomes our first choice. Remember, over here, if it's 0, the choice 1, that's the next outcome that needs to be displayed. And then we're not going to ask the player for a choice. We're actually going to continue. Now, continuing the loop pretty much just, voids the remainder and goes back to the start. Fix that. Continue. All right, perfect. So now let's go ahead and press start. And let's do here. So let's go ahead and say, let's go straight. I look ahead, and then I continue moving forward to deeper waters. And as you climb the stairs, you see a pool, waterfall out of you, set of stairs going up, and to your right is an open door. Okay, let's go ahead and do the set of stairs. All right, you walk up the stairs, immeasurable amount of gold. Perfect, you win. Press any key to continue. Game ends. All right. I'm just going to change a couple things here, and that is this. It's annoying me. I'm not knowing where our choices end. So I'm just going to actually do a break line. So let's start again, and I'll show you. It looks a little bit cleaner. If I press 1, there you go. Okay, break line. You look ahead, another make a choice. Well, I continue moving forward, break line, and I go through the door. Head back to the pools, and then head straight to the next set of stairs. All right, I win. So yeah, really, really easy and super, super simple way to create the game, or to run the program, I should say. What other things can we optimize here? Well, we can check for a couple things, because if choices required is equal to 1, then it's supposed to continue. So it's not gonna go through this else statement. But if our choice leads to an outcome of 1 or 2, that means, well, we either win or we die. So what we want to do is we want to do another section, and that is another here. So if our outcome, pretty much the exact same thing. If our outcome ID is equal to 1 or 2, then we break the loop. And this, we'll just name this check game. All right, there you go. And that is literally the simple looping, or the simple program of the Python. You're pretty much ready, set to go for this. All you have to do is, well, add your database in, change the introduction, and press start, and you're all set to go. Now, obviously, there's still more to do. There's still some refining to do, and there's still some cleanup that we need to do to our code. So there'll definitely be more episodes to come, and I'll be releasing that soon. So stay tuned. If you do have any questions as to regards to what just happened and what our code is explaining here, please do not hesitate to write down in the comments below. I will be happy to answer your question and hopefully explain it a little bit more clearer if I wasn't clear in this video. All right. So again, yeah, thanks guys for this episode, and I'll hope to see you guys on the next one. Peace.